Can a country still be considered affordable when travelers suddenly start questioning every hotel booking, train ticket, and restaurant bill the moment they arrive? For years, Japan carried two completely different reputations at the same time. Some travelers viewed it as an impossibly expensive country filled with luxury trains, tiny hotel rooms, and sky-high prices, while others discovered that Japan could actually feel surprisingly affordable once you understood how the country really worked. But recently, something started changing emotionally for many visitors. More tourists are quietly returning from Japan saying the country no longer feels as affordable as it once did, even though they still absolutely love the experience itself. And what makes this conversation interesting is that Japan did not suddenly become outrageously expensive overnight in the way many people imagine. The shift feels more subtle than that. Many travelers describe the experience as a slow accumulation of costs that emotionally feels heavier than expected once the trip is actually happening in real time. Accommodation, transportation, attractions, convenience spending, and tourist-heavy areas now add up much faster than some visitors remember from previous years. At first, many tourists still arrive believing Japan will feel cheap because they constantly hear people online talking about the weak yen and favorable exchange rates. Social media also creates the impression that Japan is now one of the world's best value luxury destinations. And honestly, there is still some truth to that depending on where someone comes from and how they travel. Compared to certain Western cities, parts of Japan can still feel surprisingly reasonable. But the emotional reality of traveling through Japan today often feels more financially demanding than many first-time visitors expect before arriving. Especially in major tourism corridors. One major reason is accommodation pricing, particularly in cities like Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, and popular tourist districts where demand has exploded after tourism fully returned. Hotel prices that once felt manageable for budget travelers often feel significantly higher now during peak travel seasons. Many visitors are shocked by how quickly prices rise once cherry blossom season, autumn foliage season, weekends, or holiday periods begin filling hotels across major cities. Rooms disappear quickly, and even basic accommodation can suddenly feel expensive emotionally once availability shrinks. Then there is the issue many tourists underestimate before arriving in Japan completely. Transportation costs accumulate incredibly fast. Japan's train system is world famous for good reason because it is clean, efficient, safe, and remarkably reliable compared to many countries. But once travelers begin moving frequently between cities, transportation spending often becomes one of the largest parts of the trip unexpectedly. This became even more noticeable after major junior pass price increases changed the economics of long-distance travel dramatically for many visitors. Travelers who once viewed the rail pass as an incredible budget hack now sometimes question whether it still delivers the same value as before. At first, people usually assume food will become the major financial problem in Japan, but interestingly that is often not the biggest issue at all. In many ways, food remains one of the best value parts of traveling there. Convenience stores still offer surprisingly high-quality meals cheaply, ramen shops remain relatively affordable, and many local restaurants continue providing excellent food at prices lower than travelers expect from a country with Japan's global reputation. Eating well in Japan is still very possible without spending huge amounts of money. But what quietly changes the emotional experience is everything surrounding the meals themselves. Transportation, tourist attractions, shopping streets, cafe culture, convenience spending, luggage movement, station purchases, and small daily costs slowly build throughout the trip. And because Japan is such a visually stimulating country, many travelers naturally spend more money than planned without realizing it initially. The country constantly presents opportunities to buy, explore, experience, or upgrade something. Then comes the moment many tourists quietly experience around the middle of the trip. They suddenly realize they are mentally calculating prices much more often than expected. A train ride here. A hotel upgrade there. Another attraction ticket. Another cafe stop. Another convenience store visit late at night. Another station meal while transferring cities. Individually, many of these costs feel reasonable. Together, they create a very different emotional feeling by the end of the trip. This shift becomes especially noticeable for repeat travelers who visited Japan years ago before the massive tourism boom returned. Many quietly say the country now feels more crowded, more premium priced in tourist areas, and less financially forgiving than before. Kyoto is one of the clearest examples of this emotional shift. The city remains stunning, culturally rich, and deeply memorable, but over-tourism dramatically changed the atmosphere in some areas. Hotels became more expensive, popular streets became overcrowded, and certain districts now feel heavily optimized around tourism demand itself. Some travelers still love the energy, while others quietly miss the calmer atmosphere they remember emotionally from earlier visits. At the first major emotional retention shift many travelers experience in Japan, there is usually a realization that affordability is not only about raw prices themselves. It is about emotional value perception. Japan still delivers extraordinary quality almost everywhere. Cleanliness, safety, organization, customer service, food quality, transportation reliability, and overall experience remain incredibly high compared to many destinations globally. And that quality changes how many tourists emotionally justify spending while traveling there. People often accept higher costs because the experience itself feels exceptionally polished and reliable. But this can also create a strange psychological effect. Because the trip feels so efficient and visually impressive, travelers naturally keep extending plans, adding experiences, taking extra trains, booking upgrades, and exploring more areas than originally intended. The country quietly encourages movement and spending without feeling aggressive about it. And by the end of the trip, many people realize they spent far more than they originally budgeted emotionally. Social media amplified this issue dramatically too. Japan travel content exploded globally over the last several years, especially among Western travelers looking for safe, visually unique, and culturally immersive destinations. Online videos often focus heavily on luxury aesthetics, beautiful cafes, themed hotels, shopping districts, designer capsule hotels, premium train experiences, anime culture, and highly curated travel moments. These videos subtly raise spending expectations even for budget-conscious travelers. Many tourists arrive wanting to recreate the exact experiences they constantly see online, but those experiences often cost far more than viewers emotionally realize while casually watching travel content from home. At the second major emotional shift many travelers experience in Japan, there is often a realization that the country itself did not necessarily become bad value. Instead, expectations around Japan changed faster than the actual country did. Years ago, many people imagined Japan as intimidatingly expensive and arrived cautiously prepared financially. Today, social media often markets Japan as surprisingly cheap luxury instead. That difference in expectation changes emotional perception massively once real travel costs begin accumulating day after day throughout the trip itself. And despite all this, many travelers still describe Japan as one of the best travel experiences of their lives afterward. Because even when the trip feels more expensive than expected, the overall quality of the experience remains incredibly high. The trains still feel futuristic. The cities still feel fascinating. The food still feels unforgettable. The culture still feels emotionally unique. The safety, cleanliness, and efficiency still stand out immediately compared to much of the world. That is why many tourists continue returning repeatedly despite acknowledging the country no longer feels as affordable emotionally as it once did. Japan still delivers something difficult to replicate elsewhere. But what travelers are sensing now is real. Japan no longer feels like the hidden budget luxury destination many people online describe so casually anymore. It feels more like a premium travel experience that can still be managed intelligently with careful planning, realistic expectations, and controlled spending habits. And honestly, once travelers understand that before arriving, the country often becomes far more enjoyable emotionally because the financial reality no longer feels surprising halfway through the trip itself.